Bitcoin has dropped over $10,000 since its most recent high, and only now are people asking me whether or not it makes sense to go short. In today's video, we'll be talking about this, going over the most recent Bitcoin price action. We have a massive week ahead, and no, I'm not just saying that because we have the interest rate decision, there's some potential war concerns, and CZ came out recently saying that we are in a super cycle. If you enjoy the content, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe. Without further ado, let's jump right into the video. To quickly address the first part of that introduction, a lot of people are reaching out to me now asking whether or not it makes sense to enter an aggressive short because Bitcoin might be moving much lower from here. Guys, I was very vocal and direct about the fact that I was trying to short this market when Bitcoin was all the way up above $96,000. We made it to just around 98K, and right now as I'm recording this video, we are down to 88K, the low of last week, taking us all the way down to the low 87K region. It would be absolutely irresponsible of me to suggest going short when we've already had basically a $10,000 move to the downside, and you can see exactly how that short is playing out. This is potentially lining up to be one of my better trades thus far, definitely my best trade of 2026. You can see the unrealized P&L, you can see the realized P&L. All of this was shared in my free group, and I remained firm on my stance that Bitcoin would experience a severe correction. The reality is we can go lower from here, but from a risk to reward perspective, it does not make sense to enter an aggressive short after we've already dropped $10,000. Remember what we discussed in my previous videos. When everyone is bullish, going right into resistance, right at those highs, and all the news outlets are coming out saying, super cycle this, super cycle that, that is when you want to consider shorting. The trend is still very much bearish, and we are still in a bear market. Whether you like it or not, the only thing I'm trying to educate you on is that you can make money in this market whether we go up or down. I aggressively shorted Bitcoin around $97,000. I also aggressively longed Bitcoin when we first hit those 80K lows on the way up, right below $83,000. And you can see that on this most recent long, I've secured some very good profits. My stop loss is at break even, and my unrealized profit is happy to just sit there in case we go ahead and move higher. But to be perfectly clear, that is not my base case. I do think that Bitcoin can move lower from here. I've also suggested that Bitcoin will likely go below $80,000 and likely below $70,000 this year. Now that we got that out of the way, if you want access to all of my own personal trades, you do have the first link in my description down below. DM me the keyword premium and I'd be happy to onboard you into my free premium group. The only requirement is that you sign up with one of my affiliate exchange links and you start trading on there. Also, I am not a financial advisor. Please read the disclaimer in the description down below. Nothing that I discuss on the channel should be construed as financial advice. I just come on the channel every single day and tell you exactly what I am doing in this market. And I've been making money whether we go down or up. That's just the reality of things. Now let's get back to the Bitcoin chart. You can see that we did have the pop basically to the bull market support band, got rejected, and right now Bitcoin is sitting just above $88,000. From a risk to reward perspective, I'm actually eyeing a potential long, but I would like to see us at the bare minimum sweep these lows on the chart right here below $87,200, depending on which exchange you're looking at. We do have a lot of liquidity to the downside, but as Bitcoin goes lower, typically a lot more people enter shorts. This is why I've been trying to tell you that from a risk to reward perspective, when everyone gets bullish, that's when you want to look for the shorting opportunity. Right now simply doesn't make that much sense, even if we can go ahead and move lower. You can see that to the upside, there is a lot of liquidity to be grabbed. And yes, there is still some liquidity to be grabbed to the downside. I don't discount that. But from a risk to reward perspective, it simply doesn't make sense to be aggressive at this point in time. Wait for the price action to develop to look for the next big swing opportunity in this market. On the 30-day time frame, there is now 2 times more cumulative short liquidation leverage compared to cumulative long liquidation leverage. But you can see that there is a pretty big cluster of longs sitting right below $87,000. This cluster has been there for quite some time, and again, it would not surprise me if we tap into that cluster, and that's actually one of my next take profits on my most recent Bitcoin short. If we are to hit $87,000, I will likely take another 25% profits off of this most recent short, and then I will go ahead and maintain the rest of the position, targeting the lows down to $80,000. Now, I know that might sound crazy, but the reality is price can get very violent to the downside. So right now, Bitcoin is essentially sitting right into its existing range. And something else you want to consider here is that we do still have a CME gap to the upside all the way up to $93,000. So what would the potential price action look like? Look, we know that bear market price action favors swing shorts, but it doesn't mean that we can't get some kind of short-term pumps in the meantime. So what would be interesting to see is, first, if we can sweep this low, let me remove the magnet, sweep this low down to $87,000, maybe we get a little bit of a reaction, and then we can go ahead and fill that CME gap around $93,000, because remember, these CME gaps have a 97% chance of getting filled. Sooner rather than later, it will get filled. Or, and this is an interesting scenario looking for swing longs, we sweep the lows only to go ahead and get another significant bounce to the upside. So this is how I'm going to play it. When we're in deep zones with massive liquidity, that's when I start looking for longs, especially when Bitcoin gets very, very aggressive to the downside. If you've been watching me, you'll remember that that's when I entered my Bitcoin long. Everyone was freaking out when Bitcoin dropped to around $80,000, but I saw this as a massive opportunity in the market, ultimately securing most of my profits on this Bitcoin long around $94,000. And as I always recommend, leaving a little bit of a moon bag in case Bitcoin goes ahead and pumps with my stop loss at break even. Speaking of which, my stop loss is also at break even for my most recent Bitcoin short, so I am not risking any more capital. All that can come from this is potential profits and then potentially getting stopped out at break even afterwards. And by the way, if you want to trade the crypto market with some of the lowest fees available, I would highly recommend that you check out Velto, which is the fourth link in my description down below. You click this link here and you'll get access to a fantastic self-custodial wallet. To me, this is one of the best self-custody wallets I have seen on the market with the lowest fees. Would highly recommend, fourth link in the description down below. So what I'm looking at here for Bitcoin to even consider going long is a sweep of some kind of lows. You know that we have the liquidity down to around $87,000, $86,000. Best case scenario, we can grab all of this long liquidity. Then I would consider entering a scalp long. If you're not in my group, I did want to give you a little bit of an update as to what my overall strategy in this bear market has been. When we get significant pumps, it makes sense to look for swing shorts in this market, as seen over here. My general strategy in this market has been to look for scalp longs and swing shorts. So if Bitcoin does get an aggressive dump and we can manage to grab this downside liquidity, it would actually look favorable for another little move to the upside before potentially rolling over. But overall, my view is still that Bitcoin will get a more significant dump this year. For some of you, that's hard to handle. That's why I've always recommended to simply just trade the market that is right in front of you. You can make money in this market whether we go up or down. Just remove your emotions and trade what is right in front of you. So as I'm recording this video on this Sunday, Bitcoin has officially broken this trend line, and you can see that on Friday, we did get some outflows from the Bitcoin spot ETFs. My hope here was that we would actually start seeing the outflows significantly get reduced. Perhaps we could see some more inflows, and maybe that will be the case in this upcoming week, but man, oh man, is this volatile to the downside. You have to also understand that it will likely be a very volatile week because on Monday we are getting the durable goods orders month over month, and then on Wednesday we get the Fed's interest rate decision with, of course, the press conference shortly after. This should be very, very interesting. Then on Friday we also get PPI. So I think we're going to see a lot of volatility. There should be some short-term pumps. Ultimately, I do think we resort lower, but if I can spot the opportunities for scalp longs, I will not hesitate to execute on that, especially because I'm running in some very, very nice profits here. As you can see, both my short and my long are doing absolutely fine in this market. The stock market, this is going to be a big discussion point because if this does tap into the bull market support band and we get some kind of minor drop this week, call it a 2% drop, we know how this impacts crypto in the short term. And something else you want to consider is the fact that the Coinbase Premium Index is still staying in deep red. This is not favorable whatsoever for a significant move to the upside. If we do get the move, you notice that we get this kind of Coinbase Premium flipping green, positive, and then we end up just selling right back off. At the end of the day, we are in a bear market and you should be trading this market accordingly. My overall strategy is to try to accumulate as much capital as possible, trade this market, and then when we are entering a bear market bottom or close to the bottom, I will start dollar cost averaging into Bitcoin and other crypto assets in preparation for the next massive run, because yes, I do believe that the next massive run will come in the next year. And something else I want you to consider. CZ came out on CNBC and essentially said that we are in a super cycle. Let's hear what he has to say.
If you look at a 5-10-year horizon, it's very easy to predict. We're going to go up. If you look at a 1-year horizon, which is like what the most common framework is, 2026, I'm not sure. You maybe, I think I have very strong feelings that you will probably be a super cycle.
A super cycle.
2026, yeah.
So he thinks 2026 will be a super cycle. We know how much power Binance has on these markets. So maybe he's onto something. Maybe 2026 will be a super cycle. But something you need to understand is that from the top, we have already dropped significantly, which is a solid, let's see, from here down to the 80K lows, we've dropped about 35%. Now, historically, Bitcoin can drop over 70% in a bear market. In fact, if Bitcoin were to drop less than 75%, this would be the lightest bear market there has been. That's actually my expectation. I think that Bitcoin will likely drop a lot less than it has in the previous cycles for two reasons. One, institutions are now involved. Two, we did not get that euphoria phase to the upside. Yes, Bitcoin was pumping. We went up to $126,000. But as you know, most of the market were over allocated into altcoins. We didn't get any kind of euphoria. And so naturally, with this drawdown, we topped on apathy. So what this basically means is, let's assume Bitcoin drops 50% from the highs, which I don't think is unrealistic at all. Over the course of this year, we're at $126,000, all the way down 50% would put Bitcoin down to the low 60K zone. And it wouldn't surprise me if we even get some wicks down to around this region, sub $60,000. That might be very difficult for you to hear. However, if this is to happen, I will simply be looking to buy a lot of Bitcoin at discounted prices. You heard it here first. I've been talking about this time and time again. I think since the end of 2025, after we've topped here, I've been talking about my strategy for accumulating in the bear market. But part of this strategy revolves around trading the market that's right in front of me, making as much profits as possible, and then stacking at the lows when everyone has officially given up on crypto. Right now, though, all I can do is swing short any kind of pumps we get and look for scalp longs in this market. That is my strategy. Don't be shocked, though, if we get some fake outs. We've seen this time and time again. What would you do, for example, if Bitcoin drops here and we go below the 80K lows? Everyone thinks it's over, and then we get another move to the upside. Maybe not that aggressive, but it wouldn't surprise me if we get a little bit of fuckery in this market. If you've been trading it, you know exactly what I'm talking about, especially with these kinds of players in the market, CZ. Now, speaking of Trump, because I just hovered over this, next week on Tuesday, we have the SEC and the CFTC to hold a joint event on making the US the crypto capital of the world. Over the past few weeks, I've heard this saying time and time again, but nothing noteworthy has really came out of it. Let's see if this time is different. And regarding Trump, again, US warships are moving towards Iran in large numbers, President Trump confirms. So this could spook the markets. This is something you cannot ignore. I just thought I'd make you aware of it. Something else you want to also consider is another government shutdown could be on the way. There's now a 75% chance that there's another government shutdown by January 31st. Less than 3 months later, the government shutdown is back. And along with this, we also have a potential new 100% tariff on Canada. Those of you that have been watching me for a while know that I am Canadian. President Trump actively looking to acquire Greenland. This hasn't really stopped. Then we have the Iran situation, the DOJ investigation into Fed Chair Jerome Powell. Then BlackRock's CIO is likely to also be the next Fed chair. And President Trump is calling for $2,000 stimulus checks and a 1% interest rate. Let's see how all of this unfolds this week. It should be a very, very interesting week as usual, but my bias remains the same. If we do get a significant pump, I simply look for new swing shorts in this market because yes, we are still in a bear market. However, if we do see attractive prices and we do manage to sweep up some downside liquidity, I don't discount the fact that looking for scalp longs makes a lot of sense, and I will of course keep you updated if I take on any new positions, my community being the first ones to know. Then I go ahead and hop on the YouTube channel and show you everything I'm doing. And that sums up today's quick video. A lot of people are asking if now is the right time to go aggressively short. My simple answer is no, even though we can go ahead and move lower. The time to go aggressively short was when Bitcoin was above $95,000, because the reality is no one really knows if we're going to go ahead and make it up there again. I told you my strategy in this market, and I will simply follow that strategy and update you on it every single day. If you enjoy the content, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe. I have my bluff and leverage trading tutorial right here if that interests you, and I'll see you in the next video.